Hello, and welcome to our next Let's Plot. Today, we will be looking at the Queen of Hearts. The Queen of Hearts is a very fast villain that can be slowed down significantly by her fate heroes and effects. The Queen of Hearts' objective is to have a card guard at each location, have it be activated and converted into a wicket, and then take the shot. Take the Shot is a 4-power effect card that reveals the top 5 cards of her deck. And if the total cost of the cards is less than, notably less than and not less than or equal to, less than the strength of her wickets, she will win the game. The Queen of Hearts has a unique mechanic of growing and shrinking heroes, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So, to start off, her card guards, they come in 4 different suits, though really they only come in 2 different varieties for purposes of the game. You have the 1 cost 2 strength version and the 2 cost 3 strength version. Ideally, you want to be playing the 2 cost versions, but the 1 cost version will also do. There's no real wrong time to play a card guard. However, you do probably want to be playing them in different locations. You don't want to make your opponent's life easier by stacking them up. Ideally, you don't want to use them to defeat heroes, but Queen of Hearts does not have that many options for dealing with heroes, so it could be worth it in a pinch. To activate the card guards, you'll need to pay 1 power and be on activate space, which is usually where her biggest bottleneck lies. And that is why we have by order of the Queen, which we'll get to in just a second. But first, the King. Before you activate the card guards, you must play them. And the King makes all the card guards cost 1 less. The King is costs 2 power, so you'll have to play at least 2 card guards to get value off of him. So if you already have 3 out, it might not be worth it to play the King. If you already have all the card guards you need, yeah, it's probably not worth it. Now, it could still be worth it to get that extra ally on the board, but I would not recommend it. The King, if you get it in your opening hand, is an absolute must play. It can save you up to 4, at least 4 power, and you don't really want to be discarding him until the very end. But remember, he's not part of your win con, so feel free if you think you really need to. So, let's say the King is in play, you've got all your card guards out, now you need to activate them. And it usually is best to save activating for a little later. You don't need to worry about it immediately because you have the card by order of the Queen. By order of the Queen converts up to 2 card guards, so you could use it to just do 1, but I would not recommend it. Converts 2 card guards into wickets. This saves you 2 activation actions for the cost of the play a card action. The play a card action is usually not as valuable as the activate action, but it's still the same 2 power nonetheless. Her other effect, well, one of her other effects, makes you smaller, uh, is the shrinking a hero, but we'll get into shrinking and enlarging heroes when we talk about locations. In the meantime, let's talk about her ways to deal with heroes. She has 2 other main ways to deal with heroes, other than shrinking. You have Tweedledee and Tweedledum, a 2-power ally that is not discarded whenever they are used to defeat a hero. And usually I like to place them over at Tolgi Wood. The Tolgi Wood allows you to just vanquish and clear that space immediately and not lose them in the process. Now, they are only 2 strength. This is a pretty big issue for their big cost. Fortunately, you have Spears, an item that gives +1 strength to any hero. I think your first spear should really go to Tweedledee and Tweedledum. This allows them to vanquish a good amount more heroes, Or it allows you to use a one cost card guard or uh, two strength, one cost, two strength card guard to defeat one of your five strength heroes and them. And you also get to reuse the spear. Before the Tweedles, and if you have the power, you might as well play it. But really you should be going to a discard action as soon as you can. The plus one power isn't great. You also have Off with Your Head, an effect that costs 3 power, and it will defeat a hero with 3 or less strength. These effects are insanely good just because you don't want to be using the Vanquish action too often, because you don't want to lose your card guards. And there are a good amount of heroes in there that you don't want around. So you really should be holding onto one in your hand if you can. Definitely don't discard too many of those. Fury will also shrink heroes, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And that's it. Those are the only ways to defeat heroes. So make sure you're prepared to deal with heroes on your board because you don't really have the resources, the power, or anything else to deal with them in an effective manner. Every card guard you waste for the defeating a hero is the play a card action, the power that you use to gain, the power you use to spend, and hopefully not the activate action that you use to unconvert it. It also directly takes away from your win condition. So it's really not great. Really do try to rely on the Tweedles and Off of Your Head. But you do have 8 card guards, so you can sack up to 4 in a cycle. But ideally, you won't, of course. Now, she is not very power hungry, which is surprising considering how expensive her objective is. You have the king, which is a wonderful discount, possibly 4 to 8 power, depending on how many card guards you play. Uh, so she also has this effect. Very Merry Unbirthday. Gain 1 power for every ally in your realm. This includes the Tweedles and the king, so you can get a pretty big swing of power on this card, and it can pay for just about anything. But it's not really worth keeping around, especially early game when you don't have a whole lot of allies around. You also have the stopwatch. I personally am a fan of the stopwatch in larger games. In longer games, sorry. In longer games, you're going to be dealing with heroes more, so you're going to need to have more power overall. And the stopwatch costs 1 power and gives you 1 power for every wicket in your realm when activated. You do lose an activate action, but it does mean you can always use that activate action to gain some extra money if you're not converting your card guard. It can also never be discarded by any means. Once it's in your realm, it is in your realm. So it is just nice to stick around, and it's only 1 power, so it's not going to be that much of a detriment usually. You can usually gain the power back that you spend playing it. You also have Judgment, an condition that gives you 3 power if your opponent has 3 or more allies in their realm. Once again, if you have it, great, play it, gain that 3 power. But it's really not worth holding on to, because your opponent might not play the 3 allies, and that whole time you're waiting, you're just clogging up your hand. And you could just be milling for Very Merry Birthday or the stopwatch. So, overall, she can really get to her objective quickly. All she needs is 4 player cards, a little bit of power to play and activate them, 8 power if we just go straight with the play and activate here, but that can be reduced by a lot with the king. However, she still has to take the shot. This 4 cost effect is not something you want to waste. In shorter games, blitz games, and she might only have one wicket at each location. And if they are your smaller wickets, that can be only eight power for the shot. It's weird, strength and power in this situation. But only 8 strength or power for the shot, and people smarter than me have done the math, and you usually want about 10 strength for about a 50% success rate. Anything above that, spears or extra card guards, is a good bonus and does increase your odds by a lot. However, more so than any other character we've discussed so far, you should really be card counting and knowing what's left in your deck. If you know you have all 3 off with your heads, then be prepared for 9 strength right off the bat. And especially the take the shots. Those are a whopping 4 cost, 4 power for this shot. You could lose 8 strength in the shot, which means it's probably going to fail if you're not all that prepared. And those are now all in your discard pile. So it's not great. Be sure you know what you have left and about what cost you might need. It might be worth delaying the shot if you know you have the Tweedles left. If you have 2 other take the shots left. Which brings us to you can usually discard the first take a shot. It's probably just going to be cluttering up your hand. And while you're trying to dig for card guards, what you need to do first. And if you play the first take of the shot, that means the other 2 might still be in there, just making your shot miss. The first one you should definitely discard. The second one really depends when in the game you get it. If you get it early, great. That also can go right in the discard. You're probably going to draw into your last take the shot later. But towards the middle to end of the game, it's probably worth holding around and just roughing it for that last 4 strength. Gotta tough it out. Make sure you have those extra strength buffers. So, moving on to our Fate deck, you have Mome Race, which move an ally to any location. This is one of only 3 different cards. Oh, 4 if you count both copies separately. 4 cards that directly stop you from taking a shot. Queen of Hearts does have a move ally or item action, but it can only move 1 away, so your opponents will probably be moving the wicket far away from where it was. So, which order should you be activating your cards into wickets to avoid this? I would recommend converting the Hedge Maze card guard first, and then the White Rabbit's house, followed by the Courtyard, until you would last, but make sure you have those Tweedles there. That is because the Dodo might come out. The Dodo, card guards or card guards at Dodo's locations cannot be converted into wickets. Very annoying, but notably you can use the move ally or item action to move under him and not deal with his ability. But if he is at the 3rd location and you have the Tweedles there, you could just go vanquish him immediately. Tweedles with the spear, of course. So you want to try to force Dodo into an inopportune location. And for the Momras, with activating a middle location first, when they move it away, they'll probably move it to one of the edges. And yes, it's not going to be great, but you can still not worry about activating that card guard if you don't have the time, even though the extra strength would be helpful. Then the White Rabbit's house, the farthest corner away from Hedge Maze. So when they move the card guard, if they move it this way, they're probably not going to, because you can just move it back. But you can just go over here, activate it, and not worry about that card guard. And you also have some extra strength to vanquish. Then the courtyard, just the second to last location, and then lastly that dodo clay we talked about. Then, our next effect in the Fate deck, Down the Rabbit Hole, which either brings out Alice, a very annoying hero, 5 strength, so you'll need a 3 strength and a 2 strength ally to deal with her. And Queen of Hearts cannot move allies or items. The items part does not matter. But Alice makes it so you cannot move underneath the dodo, and Moon Race cannot be undone with your move an ally or an item action. So it is probably worth dealing with her when she appears. However, if she appears before Down the Rabbit Hole, you're probably going to want to hold off on doing it, and instead waiting until after Down the Rabbit Hole goes away, because Down the Rabbit Hole discards an ally at her location. And this can be devastating because you lose the card guard's strength, which you don't in Mome Race. You lose all of its power and its activation. But once Alice is gone, you can start undoing those Mome Race or moving around underneath Dodo or whatever you need to do. Of course, if you're getting towards the end of the game, it might just be best to focus on blitzing to your objective. You have the Cheshire Cat, another 5 strength hero, which unconverts 2 card guards, up to 2 card guards. But if you can defeat him, you get those 2 conversions back. Usually, it's not worth it to try to defeat him, but if you have the Tweedles in hand, you can just play them underneath him. In this case, you could just waste a 2-cost card guard and get those activations back immediately. And you also get to free up that top row of actions. The problem with Cheshire Cat is that it can be be undone immediately by order of the Queen. Then you have the Dodo, very annoying, so try to keep him in as opportune locations as possible. Convert wickets at locations without heroes first, so that if the Dodo comes out to play, he'll be played to a location with another hero. Then you have I'm late, which we'll probably use to keep bringing back Dodo. So, once again, just try to deal with him quickly, off with your head, or put a card guard underneath him with your move and ally or item action. You have the Caterpillar, Dormouse, and White Rabbit. All of these are pretty not very important effects. The Caterpillar, all allies at his location lose 1 strength. Very annoying, but pretty easy to get rid of with off with your head or the Tweedles with a spear. The White Rabbit, the cost to activate card guards is increased. And the Dormouse, just a simple 1 strength, can all be defeated by any ally. Very easy to get rid of if you need that board space. And you might want to consider getting White Rabbit anyway, just because of the action economy. Then you have March Hare and Mad Hatter. Very annoying together. Always try to off with your head because they are 3 strength alone. Always try to off with their head as soon as they hit the board. Because when they're together, they get 5 strength. At that point, it really isn't worth dealing with because you get no benefits from defeating them. And they will just eat up all your resources in that vanquish. And last but not least, let's talk about makes you larger and makes you smaller. Makes you larger does not matter. I'm sorry, but it really doesn't. Whenever your opponent is faced with the opportunity to either make a hero cover 3 spaces or just cover 2 spaces with another hero, they're probably going to choose the latter. But you do have makes you smaller, which makes it so that a hero will only cover one space. So, which space should you choose? At the courtyard, it's pretty easy. You want that discard action because the move an ally or item action is just turned off with Alice. So that's a pretty easy choice, but probably the one you want to uncover the least. But you know, if you get it with Fury, it it's just nice. You have the hedge maze. Depending on what point of the game you are at, when you can shrink the hero, really influences your decision. Early game, you want to uncover the play card action so you can get those card guards out and then order the queen. Late game, you want to uncover that activate action so you can play and activate a card guard immediately. Tolgi Wood, you want to uncover that fate so that you can fate and not worry about anything else. Hopefully it does not come down to that, but sometimes it will. And then at White Rabbit's house, you want that play a card action. Similar reasoning for Hedge Maze at the end of the game, but the one power really doesn't matter, especially with Stopwatch and Very Merry on Birthday. So now that we've gone over the top locations, let's talk about the locations as a whole. The courtyard, very good for cycling and sneaky dodo plays or undoing Mome Race, but usually there will be better options. The Hedge Maze is your combo space where you can play card guards, by order of the queen, activate your card guards, maybe the stopwatch too. All very good options. Tully Wood is your reset space with a discard and a fate. You definitely want to keep that clear with the Tweedles, as discussed previously. But it does not give you any power, unlike the courtyard, but you're pretty fine on power most times. So it's not that big of a deal. Then you have the White Rabbit's house. Also, not an amazing location, but it's your only bottom activate and your bottom fate, so also pretty good. So, final quick recap. Try to get that king out as soon as possible to get possibly 4 power discount. 4 to 8 if you're extremely lucky. Get those card guards out. Activate them, not necessarily immediately, but pretty quickly. And then finish it off with a take the shot. With a shot you'll know you'll win because you have counted what is left in your villain deck. And with that, that'll bring us to a close. Thank you for watching.